whites tonight, okay, who are coming around. They're going to be giving you 3, okay. By the way, welcome back. We missed you. I want you to know that. It's good to see you. And I just want to give a compliment before we start. I'm not the Atlanta County historian anymore. I chose to step down from that for various reasons. But I just want to give a compliment to the Ocean County people who have done what they've done with all sorts of projects. You guys are amazing. Marilyn and Joy are the 2 men in whites handing out your handouts. And when you get the handouts, try not to read them all together. You can take them home with you. Try to stay focused on me a little bit. I want you to do me a favor. Now, this is a strange favor. I am old. My body says that. And my ears especially say it. And while I'm giving the presentation, could you guys do me a huge favor? Because could you please not have conversations with each other? Number one, other people can't hear, but number 2, I can no longer tell the direction that the sound's coming from or pick up the words, and so it totally confuses me during the presentation, and I'll think I'm someplace else talking about something else, and so I won't make sense, okay? This project started 9 months ago, but for me it started in 2007 when I was trying to prove my relations to Jeremiah Leeds of Atlantic County and the militia in order to join the Sons of the American Revolution. One of the things that I got at the Atlantic County Historical Society was a copy of a transcript of his pension application, and that fascinated me. As I started to look into it deeply after I joined, I started to get a picture which was interesting. Here's the picture. Now this you may not have known, and we just learned it true in Atlantic County because one person from this area took advantage of the first Pension Act. There was a Pension Act scheme in the war itself that if anyone was seriously disabled, they went on a pension for the rest of their lives. And you're going to see, if you decide to get the book, you'll read the guy's pension application that actually got that. And then in 1818, a second Pension Act was passed by Congress, and that was for the Continental Line soldiers. But also, if you were in the militia and you were seriously wounded, life-changing wounded, you could get a pension then. But in 1832, they passed a third Pension Act, which covered all of the militia, and also covered all of the Continentals, and even allowed if the person died after they got their pension, it could go to their spouse, okay? So it really was 1832 before pensions became popular in Atlantic County. Are we okay so far? Between 32 and about 36, I knew of 20 or 21 people that filed for their pension applications. Now, how did I get them? Well, I went on Heritage Quest. How did I get the Heritage Quest? I went to the library in Galloway Township, got a library card, went on the county library site, and looked up their Heritage Quest. They are a member of Heritage Quest, typed in my number off my library card, and I had access to Heritage Quest as if I were looking through the eye of the United States Archives. And in there they have all the pension applications for the entire Revolution. So about 9 months ago, we decided, and Mike really put it well, we decided to memorialize these pension applications in a way that people who needed one 50 or 100 years from now would not have to go around and look and search and do what many of us have done. And so what we did is we decided to make transcripts. Now, if you've ever read a pension application, they are affidavits, is what they are, that were presented before a court, and it could be anywhere in the United States, the then United States in 1832, and the court would decide if it was credible, and they would have to provide witnesses to say that they did in fact serve. Now, court affidavits, we have a picture of a court affidavit in today's modern thing being a typed document with just all in legalese. Pension applications are not that way. They essentially were transcriptions like a court stenographer would take. But I want you to picture writing 2 or 3 pages, 10 pages, handwritten, Steve, and there's no punctuation in the whole thing. There's no break between sentences. They have capital letters on words that we never capitalize, and no capitals where they should have one. And they didn't, by the way, write in sentences. They wrote in sound bites on those. And the handwriting, in some, is beautiful. And in some, it's worse than mine. I'm saying something. But we decided to go ahead and do it. And here's what we decided to do. We decided to get volunteers from the Atlantic County Historical Society, invite the DAR gals and the SAR guys, and here there's a transcriber there with red hair, and here's a transcriber with brown hair. Okay? And there are others in the room. Here's one with gray hair. Okay, that I happen to be married to. Now, males and females. One lady said, finally, this is going to help me get my husband off the couch. And she browbeat this guy into doing 2, and he did a great job. She should have been in the DAR. She was strong. Anyway, in the process, we said, we wonder. And we got a couple people. Diane Miller right here is one of them, sitting in the brown. She's the brown-haired transcriber right here. And Diane all of a sudden found a couple more pension applications. Now, I don't remember where she found it, but that motivated other people. And the 20 to 21, by the time we were done, ended up to be 41. Now, I'm going to say something at the end because I'm not 100% sure 41 is the end of the job. But so now what do we do? I ask for volunteers. I send copies of the scans, the PDF scans, let's say out to Diane by email. She transcribed it. She sent me back that proof. At that point, we had the proofreading. So I proofread each one. And then we had to make a big decision on how do we put these in a format without changing anything that's essential, but where somebody who's not familiar with the American Revolution, not familiar with some of the handwriting, can read them. Well, the first thing we did is we decided we would not change archaic punctuation. We also decided we would not change sentence length, but we would put periods at the end of sentences, because in our culture, we need that. Now, why did I decide that? Most of you know that I was a pastor, but I was also a professor of biblical Greek, or ancient Greek. And in the Greek language, punctuation wasn't invented until about 600 years after the New Testament was written. 1,000 years after the Hebrew Old Testament was written. And so when you read old documents, you're used to this frustration, and you don't want people to go through it, so we added that. Now, there are 2 ways that's going to be, people are going to react. You won't hear anything about it. Diane will, Kathy will, I will. As this gets around, this book, you will have people saying, oh, you should have added more periods, more commas. Should you fix the spelling? And then on the other hand, you will have the purist that says, no, you should have bowed down to the original and not even put a period in it. Here's what it says in here. There's a footnote at the end of every pension application that explains how we did it. And said, if you want one with more punctuation and more spelling, knock yourself out. If you want to be a purist and do one without no change, have a go at it. We even have 2 in there where the transcript survives. Somebody did it 40 or 50 years ago, But the original scans have faded so much you can't read them. So we had invited people to there. Have a go at it. See what you can do. This I picked up from the printer today. This is the book. It's 400 pages long. It's spiral bound because you would not have wanted to pay the extra money to have it regular bound, and we surely did. We are making them available to people, the book, two ways. Both are with prepaid orders. We are not in the collection business at the Historical Society. We don't want to have inventory of an extra 30 or 40 books sitting around at almost $50 a book. We're on this. If we make $2 at the end, we'll be lucky. But we're also going to make it available on flash drive. And so take your handout now in front of you. This is a black and white scan of the cover. If you go inside, you will see the table of contents. One of our new members that we took in tonight is related to James Giberson. In here is James Giberson's pension application. Now you say, Norm, what about my ancestors? If they didn't make it to at least 1832, Steve, they couldn't have a pension application because that's when the law was passed. But, and I'll come back to this, I believe there are still some pension applications out there that can be found, and I think I have a way to do it. And we'll talk about this. So there's a list of the pension applications that are in here. If you go to the very next page, you will see that there is a map in here, and you'll see that that map has had a bunch of numbers inserted on it. On the next page, you will see a list of what those numbers are. They are all the places the 3rd Battalion went that are listed in the pension application. So you can see. Now you say, well, there are probably places where they went that aren't in the pension application. I know that, but I can't verify that. Everything in here is verified, okay? These were court affidavits. I am thrilled to death with family stories. But as I told one of our members, unless you have proof of the family story, it's a family story and no more right now. If you can prove it tomorrow, then it goes from being a fable to a fact. But I don't mean fable in a bad way, because with my patriot ancestor, Jeremiah Leeds, there was a family fable, a family rumor that he met and served with George Washington. Every pension application, every place they went said that he couldn't, except for two. And they explained that the company that he was the first lieutenant in, after the Trenton-Princeton battles, went with Washington's army up into the mountains, stayed there, and they were assigned to the New Jersey Line Battalion, who were the personal guards, the circle around Washington, where Washington lived, and they were with him. So now the chances are possibly that he did meet Washington, but it's still only a what? A possibility. So anyway, there's that. Now if you flip the page again, and you would like to know who did the transcriptions, here is a thank you note. Every time I sent out a pension application for transcription, I put it in a spreadsheet with the person's name to who I was sending it, and that way I could do collection and make sure how it was getting done. Because remember, everybody that did this also had lives to live. Okay? Now next, now by the way, also what's in the book is a 2-page introduction that I wrote. And then there is a 3-page review of the American Revolution year by year. I want to tell you how I did it so there's for the sense of integrity. I had no idea how to go about quickly summarizing the revolution in 8 blocks, 8 years. So guess who I asked? That wasn't chat, whatever Google's AI is. And the doggone thing did a great job. Now what I did is I cleaned it up a little, and then I added to each year what the 3rd Battalion was doing that year, so you will know where the locals are. Now, then next in here comes, this is what you have with Albert Albertson, is the first pension application. And pension applications are strange things. I've now come to understand that what the government did in 1832 is they designed a big envelope. That makes sense, doesn't it, for all the paperwork? And on the front of the envelope, they printed a review of how much the person was getting paid, how much was in arrears, et cetera, their name, their rank. At the top of every pension application is this real quick review. So if you were to look at Albert Albertson, it tells you that the Pension Act was passed June 7, 1832. Well, you'll find that on every pension application. Then it says he applied for his pension, and there's the date. He was approved and his pension certificate was issued March 11, 1833. Took about a year for most of them to get approval. And now, since they are getting paid from 1832 on, no matter when they applied, the next thing says his pension, with payment, his pension was $80 per year, paid $40 semi-annually. So you got to check twice a year. He received a $200 payment for arrears of $160 for the 2 years 1832 to 33, with his September 11, 1833 semi-annual $40 amount included. And then I said here, and this last sentence is on every single one. An AI search for today's 2026 payment, equivalent of $100 in 1832, equals $37.99 2 months ago when I did that. So this kind of gives you an idea of what the equivalency was. Now, after that it says court affidavit. That's a word-for-word transcription of the. Now, it does not include witness statements, because all the witness statements is they say Steve Beard, he was a nice guy, and he lives in the area, and I know he served in the Revolution. We don't need to transcribe that. You say, so you mean there's other stuff in these pension jackets? Some of them are PDF files are 100 to 110 pages long, because every time somebody in the DAR or the SAR in the late 1800s, early 1900s, wrote a letter to the archives, U.S. archives, to try to get a copy of something to join, they kept that person's, not only their letter, but they kept the envelope they sent it in, and they kept their response letter. So that's all in there. At the end of every transcription, if you go to the end of this transcription, you will find another boilerplate statement under note, and that tells you what you could do to find, if you want to see the original with all that extra stuff, tells you how to do it. Then the last item is Albert Albertson's payroll jacket, his pension application jacket, which shows how he was paid, when he was paid, etc. Some of them actually say when the guy died and when the pension stopped. If that was done, I included that on that first page paragraph. Now, so you kind of understand, now behind this, on every pension application, are all the pages of the pension application itself. So when you look at this book, and you open to any one, here is a pension application for James Giberson. Now, I didn't mean to open it, but who's our James Giberson guy? Where is he? There you are. The angels are watching over you. It opened to your ancestors. But after you see James, here is a letter that was sent for James, okay? Because James' pension application, interestingly enough, wasn't accepted. Now, why it wasn't accepted, they don't deny he was in the Army. He didn't send in enough proof to go with it, and then died before he could answer the request for more proof. So, but anyway, we even include that in there, and so you can see, this is, by the way, James Giberson, let's see. Yep, And that letter was written on March 11th, 1940, for somebody that wanted to deal with James Iverson, named Charles Blake from Pleasantville, New Jersey. We're trying to join the SAR. So anyway, that's what it's like. All 41 are in here. Now, if you go to the last page of your handout, and you're welcome to look at this, if you want a copy, there are two ways you can get it. This is an order form. As I say, we only do prepaid orders. We don't want to be in the collection business or the inventory business. So if you want a printed copy, it's $50. If you want it mailed to you, we went to the post office with it to find out exactly what it would cost. And the post office is pure dollar swapping. It's $35 each. We have to buy an envelope, and actually we have to buy, you know, those priority boxes you buy. That's what they want us to do. If you wanted to go snail mail, it's $10. But I can tell you, because I'm a ancient Greek and ancient Hebrew textbook addict, and I buy used copies of textbooks. I've never seen them before. And if you send them a snail mail, it may take 3 or 4 or 5 weeks to get it. So just be prepared for that if you use it. Yeah. Now, if you want an electronic copy, what is an electronic copy? It's very simply a PDF on a flash drive. It's $25 and it's searchable. Now, if you want it mailed to you, it's $5, and that includes the postage. It's either 2 or 3 stamps. We figured it's 3, and it's a little envelope that Kathy already got me a box of out with. Now, what you would do is you would fill this application out, and you would either mail it along with your check. Wouldn't suggest you mail cash, by the way. Or you come into the Historical Society on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday between 10 and 2. You say, wait a minute, you're open until 3:30. Yes, but in the summer, most afternoons there's not people there, and we don't keep our volunteers till 3:30 if it's tested. So it's 10 to 2, and we will then order it for you. At the end of each week, we'll order those who are set that week. About a week later, it will become available to you. If you don't want to pay the postage, and quite frankly, I wouldn't want to pay that $35, okay? So what I would do is I'd say, well, call me when it's in, and I will come down on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, and I'll pick it up. You say you're not going to hand deliver it to my house? No. Let there be no doubt in your mind that was the answer to this. Yeah. Now, that's kind of the best way I thought to explain it. Now, before we go, now, if any of you want to order them tonight, and you want to give me either cash or check, you can do it. Just fill this thing out and hand it to me. And if you want to mail it, fine. We already have orders coming in, and well, that's fine. By the way, someone paid, the person who paid for this to be the cost also paid for a copy to be donated to Stockton's library, and they've agreed they want it on their shelf, not electronic. ACCC the same, and we felt that since the person was generous to do that, we gave him a copy too. Actually, he probably paid for some copy that way. But now, here's something we have found. Most of the libraries I've contacted are not interested. You know why? Libraries are no longer libraries. They're really not. They are computer, especially in the city type areas, they are computer labs for people that can't afford computers at home, that need it to sign up for their retirement, their medical stuff, and everything else. We have the entire genealogy library of the Atlantic City Library given to us. I don't know, Diane's got to be 30 or 40 or 50 years ago they gave them to us, all those books. And it sits in there, and they are on what's called permanent loan. We have another set of New Jersey archives, I believe, from you all that are for us on permanent loan. Now, what does that mean? It means Mike is saying, don't you dare ever threaten to bring them back. But we're a government agency, and we can't sell them to you or this, that, and the other, so you need them here. Merry Christmas. Okay? Last but not least, what do I think the future is? How many of you ever used an old, now this is going to age some of you, okay? How many of you ever used a DOS computer before Windows came around? So if your memory's real good, you will know that Control F is fine. And you will know that there is a wonderful use for the asterisk. It's a wild card. If you put an A in a block and an asterisk, it means give me every word you have or every name you have in your file that begins with A. I tried it on Heritage Quest. I went in, I chose Revolutionary War pensions, Gloucester County, New Jersey. Nothing in the first name box. I really don't care. And in the last name box, I put capital A asterisk. And I got a scary several hundred-page list out. Now you say, well, how could you find that? Well, here's what I need. I need 26 volunteers eventually that will go to the county library or their branch, get a library card if you don't have one already, because on the back there's a membership number. Then you sign on with your computer online, the Atlantic County Library System, scroll down to their collections, look up Heritage Quest, and when you go to sign into Heritage Quest, it will ask you for the number. You can now search Heritage Quest to your heart's content for free. So I need a D volunteer, for example. And that D volunteer, let's pretend it is Don Higby. What Don Higby's going to do is he's going to sit on his computer with his library card number, and he's going to fill out the blanks, but in the last name block, he's going to put D asterisk. You okay with that? Now he's going to get a list. It could be 20 names, it could be 200 names. But we now don't know what those names mean, do we? He's going to have to, one by one, open them and read the first 20 handwritten lines. And they will tell him whether the guy is from Burlington County or Gloucester County. Remember, Gloucester County, we were at Gloucester County. And then he's going to, on his list, he's going to figure we're going to print that list out, and he's going to mark the ones for me that are from Gloucester County. And when he's all done, he's going to say, I'll meet you in Smithville to give you the list back. And then I'm going to take them, and we're going to download those pension applications. And every one that we don't have yet, we will then start Volume 2. I can tell you, this is the longest, I, in grad school, didn't have any project this long, okay? And I'm okay with doing another one now that I know how to do it. But that's what the story is. Now, that's all I have to say to you. Do you have any questions? Anything about the process? Yes, Charlie.
What is about the process? Was there another pension for like senior officers where they got land bounties?
Land bounties were a different thing, and the land bounties came in the early 1800s. And all the land bounty records that I found so far, and anybody I know has found, is simply a card that says they got land. Now, if there was more to it, I haven't been able to find it. But yes, not just senior officers. Let me tell you something. About half the Summers Battalion ended up with land in Indiana and Ohio, and they were not senior officers. Most of the senior officers were older, and so by 1832 they were dead.
Right? It didn't follow through the family stuff.
Well, they owned the land. Once they got the land grant, it was their land. That's my understanding. So that would become part of their estate, yes. But I don't know how you track that. But there has to be, because on my Ancestry account, every once in a while when I search a Patriot Ancestor, I will come up with a bounty card. And it's handwritten, and so it must exist somewhere. But there's no information on there that would be relevant other than I could say, John Jones got a land grant. He doesn't even say where he got it, by the way, on most of it. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What were the surprises, Norm?
Yes.
The surprises. Let's start with Chestnut Neck. I am stunned that the Nest of Rebel Pirates was written as well as it was. Because he did that, Franklin Kemp did that without computers. All by writing letters in those days. I gained a whole different respect for him. Only met him once before he died. Okay? However, there's no question now that here's Chestnut Neck. When the war starts, that fort out at the inlet at what we call Holgate on Long Island today, Foxborough, that was Foxborough Fort, okay? That was the fort that was built, and everybody worked on that, and they were working on that for a good year to a year and a half. It was a mud fort because that's what it was called. It was also called Fort Tucker, we found out. They did not build the fort at Chestnut Neck itself, or the battery behind it, that which would be the third fort, until about a week and a half before the Battle of Chestnut Neck. Had no need for it in their minds. We just found that out. It's very clear. It said something like this in 2 pension applications. We got the word that the British were coming, so we built a fort at Chestnut Neck. And one pension application alludes to the fact that they had Quaker cannon. Now, by the way, they did have cannon at the Mud Island fort, but those cannon were removed for the Battle of Philadelphia. Hey guys, I can't hear. Okay? Whisper. Okay? Yeah. They were taken out. Now what happened from the beginning? Pretty much what we know happened at Trenton and Princeton. However, within 4 weeks of Massachusetts, what are the two? Concord and Lexington. They were building Foxborough Fort already.
Go there. You can go there today. It's sold off of Marshall Channel.
Pardon me?
It still exists. The point, Foxborough Point's still there, and still you can go right
I
there.
went out there with a metal detector. I couldn't find anything, but then after I went out there, I was reading a Coast Guard map from the late 1800s. No, you know what the problem was? They built a fish factory right on that point. So whatever it was is long gone, okay? I did see a fox out there, so there is hope. There was foxes there. And what else did we learn? We learned that the 1777 attack on 3 British ships in Great Bay, that one got sunk, wasn't a fable, wasn't something that got mixed up with Chestnut Neck. It was a separate thing, and we found out that the British had been to Chestnut Neck 3 times and come all the way up the river and burnt ships before Chestnut Neck occurred. We found that Absecon was a favorite place to attack, and at one time, a couple hundred prisoners were taken, British prisoners, at Absecon. Yeah. We also learned that the 3rd Battalion had 2 companies of Minutemen every month on standby, Summers Point and Chestnut Neck, and they signaled each other with the use specifically of a 3-pound cannon. That's it, I'm going to chew up. I'm learning, okay? What else did we learn? Chestnut Neck. Red Bank was where our main fatality occurred. We found some more people wounded. A couple more people from the area were killed, and we found out that they were a lot busier on the islands chasing the British away than we thought. And they were constantly marching. And they didn't stop serving as island guards and snatching British transports until they got word that the peace treaty was signed. And so I think it was in Ocean County, there was a battle after it was signed, but they just hadn't gotten word across the ocean yet. So they're kind of the things that they learned. A lot of new stuff, but also verification of all the things that we thought. Some of you guys are new. When we started doing this history back, Dennis, I don't know, it would have had to have been, well, I came in '07, and so I started doing the history search about 10, and we had people that didn't believe any of the stuff we found. They just threw it away. Every single thing that those pension applications said has been verified by other people, and in most cases, it's detail. So here is my challenge to you. You want to know what happened in Atlantic County? I didn't do it on this. I wanted to, but I ran out of energy, to be truthful with you. I was going to make a chart. And the chart was going to start with, best picture a spreadsheet and columns. My left column was going to be, after the names, was going to be Egg Harbor Guard. Next was going to be Trenton Princeton. Next was going to be Delaware River Guard. Next was going to be the Battle of Red Bank on the Delaware. And all the way through, Steve, the main events that the 3rd Battalion was in. And then I was going to put the names down on the left-hand side. And I was going to put a check mark in each one if they had been in a certain battle. So it was in a spreadsheet that wouldn't have been that big. And if I were you, and you were going to get this, I'd go through, I'd read, don't try to read the transcripts. You wear yourself out, unless you just like self-punishment, okay? I mean, don't try to read the original. Read the transcripts and try to get the big picture. Pretend you're back in college again and you're writing a paper and you have to get the big picture first. Read through the 41 of them. Read one a day for 41 days. You will have a big picture. And then if you want to go back and research something, I can tell you that the Atlantic County Historical Society is very much open to publishing your research. Now, somebody asked me tonight about publishing all their genealogical papers. We don't have room in our yearbook for that with all the proofs, but we would make a file for you. And if you wanted to do that, you would come in and see this charming red-headed lady here, Kathy Fritz, a.k.a. Ritz, okay? Now, when you come in, you must be careful of something. Kathy has her best conversations with people. So you may find her walking through the stacks of books, having this vivid conversation, real emotional. But know that it's Kathy talking to Kathy, okay? And she's not crazy. That's how she thinks things out. But we also have a guy that will help you edit it to make sure that your punctuation and your spelling and your sentence structure is a whole lot better than these people. So all those things are possible, and I gave you a challenge is what to do with the book. If you really want to read what the 3rd Battalion did, read it from the horse's mouth. Don't listen to me. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Norm, in 1832, there must have been thousands of pension applications. My question is, without federal income tax, where did the money come from to pay all these pensions? Can you tell
I have
me?
no idea. But I do have the impression that the reason it didn't happen in 1822 is the government didn't have the money. By the time 1832 came, you're going to find out that every one of these people is about 70 to 80 years old. And in that era, with no medicine, no Medicare, I mean, think about it. You and I would be long gone, but we'd be somewhere else, right? Hopefully. Yes? Okay. So that's the only answer I gave you. I have never researched the actual act. I've seen a copy of it, and I read it, but I've not looked into the legislative history of it. I saw a hand here somewhere. Any?
Ours.
Who?
Ours. You mentioned prior to Chestnut Neck, the year that came before, there was British incursion.
Yes, October
And
17th.
I cannot tell you now where I saw it, but there's a reference that when the British were supposedly going to come, that the ironmaster at Batstow put up breastworks on an island below the forts. And I cannot tell you where I read that. The only island that's there directly below Sweetwater Casino, it is today. It's
Well,
called
that could
Private
be-
Island, but there is no
Well, that's,
record anywhere other than it was.
well, that I haven't found, but let me tell you something we did find that I totally forgot when you said that. We did find the fact that, and in the British records, that they were planning to go up the river to Batstow and destroy the foundry up there, and any ships that had been unloaded and floated up the river. But they heard that Pulaski is on the way from Trenton with his legion, and I forget the guy's name offhand now. The Virginia colonel is on his way from Proctor, and there's something we found out. It's in 6 or 7 pension applications. When Proctor came with his cannon, he came with 400 New Jersey line people, plus militia. So in Chestnut Neck, all of a sudden, we were packed with 600 or 700 people. So it doesn't say anywhere, but I kind of understand why the British chose to go to Osborne Island and didn't want to mess with the people stationed at Leeds Point. And by the way, that's when they went to Summers Point and built Summers Point. And they had a cannon there from day one, and the cannon, now I have 2 people that helped load it, could fire a small ball over the Ocean City Beach. Now, I don't know how you do that at what angle, but I wrote to Gettysburg College to a guy out there years ago, and he said absolutely they had that power at that particular time. He said, now the barrel wouldn't last that long, but that's what they did, and the British did attack Summers Point through that inlet, and they chased them away every time. So, you remind me of things. Anything else?
Any continental line troops that were down there?
Yes, when Proctor brought his Continental line down to try to get here in time for Chestnut Neck, he arrived a day later. He came with 400 Continentals. Okay, now, we don't know, we don't think they did anything. There's nothing to say because the British had already skipped. And one of the guys of the 41 was also in the Pennsylvania line for a while. Okay, so there's all sorts of information that you don't expect. And I had to read it 2 or 3 times before I could really absorb it, because I wasn't, you know, when you're not expecting something and you see it, you don't actually see it. You kind of, that's not on my radar. So I'd encourage you to do it. Yes, Mike?
What about widows' pensions?
A couple widows got their pension, a couple widows were turned down. I didn't include any of the widow stuff afterwards, because most of the pension applications were just the pension applications and the character references, if you will. Okay, they had to do that. But there are, out of the 41 guesstimate, 10 to 12 with all that later information. But a lot of the widows were turned down, and it doesn't really say why. And now, again, I've never read it word for word. I didn't have any desire to transcribe 120 pages of stuff. I mean, some of them are immense files. I mean, it's just horrible. But that's kind of what it is. I'm not planning to start the new research project this summer. I'm done. Yeah, I'm taking off for the summer. But in the fall, if you are interested in doing one of the letters, you'll be working from your home computer. I'll give you typed instructions. I learned that this time, that give typed instructions that are in detail about what to be done. And because a couple of the transcriptions I got back were in fonts that I had never seen in my life before. Yeah, so it's amazing what you learn when you do something the first time in a team effort. Yeah, Atlantic County Historical Society was very generous. Everything was really kind of put aside to get this done, and even our printer rushed to have it done for tonight. I built this as our official presentation, and so with that, I have 4 books. Now, I'm gonna have to look this up because I have 3 of them from memory. Unfortunately, you're on the second one, okay? Miss Fritz. May I present you your book? You will please mark your order paid and received. Vanna White. My friend for almost since the revolution ended. And now, let me have my phone because there's a 4th one there. And the only way I'm going to know is to look at it here. Friday, BB. Ah! The Historical Society's webmaster and the person that has just redesigned our entire website, the illustrious Steel Mad, by the way. I guess that means that Steelmans are a little mad, and that could be true, but I'm a Steelman also, and so Dennis and I are distant cousins, so if he's a little crazy, I'm probably a little crazy too. And Marilyn would say amen to that. With that, I am finished, and thank you.